What if your smartphone wasn't just a slab of glass and metal? What if it was a statement? A tool that felt less like a disposable piece of tech and more like a classic instrument, designed with a single, passionate purpose. In a world of identical black rectangles, some brands dare to be different. They dare to be interesting. This isn't just another phone. This is the Nubia Z70S Ultra, and it's a device that unapologetically marches to the beat of its own drum. It's a phone for the photographers, the creators, the people who see the world through a different lens, specifically a 35mm one. So let's leave the spec sheet wars behind for a moment and explore a device that tries to bring a little bit of soul back into smartphone technology. Right out of the gate, let's talk about this design because it is impossible to ignore. Our unit arrived in its minimalist packaging, containing the phone itself, a striking red USB-C cable, and a clear snap-on case with some, let's call them, bold, shiny edges. But honestly, putting a case on this phone feels like a crime. Nubia has been refining its design language for generations, creating a recognizable identity that's both modern and deeply nostalgic. With the Z70S Ultra, they've taken a fascinating turn. From a distance, you'd swear this was a faux leather back panel, evoking the feel of a vintage camera. But get closer, run your fingers over it, and the truth is even more intriguing. This isn't leather, it's glass. Nubia has etched and finished this glass panel to perfectly mimic the texture and grip of leather. It's a brilliant piece of engineering. You get the premium, scratch-resistant nature of glass, but with a warm, grippy texture that repels fingerprints like a champ. It's the best of both worlds, a tactile experience that makes you want to hold the phone, just for the sake of it. The camera module is, of course, the centerpiece. Despite housing a larger main sensor this time around, the bump hasn't grown obnoxiously. It seems losing the variable aperture mechanism from the previous model has allowed them to keep things relatively streamlined. The layout is clean and purposeful, reinforcing that camera-centric identity. But Nubia's dedication to the camera experience goes beyond aesthetics. It's baked into the hardware. The frame is a solid piece of aluminum with a fine satin finish, and it's absolutely packed with physical controls. On the right, alongside the standard power and volume buttons, you'll find a dedicated two-stage shutter release button. This isn't a software gimmick, it's a proper mechanical button with a half press to focus and a full press to capture. It feels wonderfully tactile and can be configured to quick launch the camera, so you never miss a shot. Then, over on the left side, there's another signature Nubia feature, a customizable slider. You can set this to instantly launch the camera into its street mode, turn on the flashlight, or even open up the gaming utility. It's an extra layer of physical interaction that is so rare and so welcome in today's phones. Even the fingerprint reader is thoughtfully placed, high enough on the display that your thumb falls on it naturally. It's an optical sensor, which means it's fast, reliable, and plays nicely with screen protectors, which you'll definitely want for this beautiful, flat display. And speaking of durability, this phone boasts an IP68/IP69 rating. That means it's not just safe from a dunk in the pool, but it can also withstand high-pressure, high-temperature water jets. Why you'd ever do that is beyond me, but the peace of mind is certainly there. For those who want to lean even harder into the retro camera aesthetic, Nubia offers an accessory kit that transforms the phone into something resembling an old-school rangefinder, complete with dials, a larger shutter button, and even a cold shoe mount for accessories. It's a commitment to a concept, and you have to respect it. Now let's turn the phone over and talk about what might be its most striking feature: the complete and utter absence of a punch hole or notch. This is the magic of an under-display camera. You are greeted by a pure, uninterrupted 6.85-inch rectangle of vibrant OLED. The bezels are slim and uniform, creating a truly immersive canvas for everything you do. When the display is on, the selfie camera beneath it is, for all intents and purposes, invisible. It's a piece of technology that still feels like it's from the future. The panel itself is a beauty. We're looking at a resolution of 1216 by 2688 pixels, giving it a sharp pixel density of 431 pixels per inch. It's an AMOLED display capable of producing over 1 billion colors, and it gets plenty bright, hitting nearly 1400 nits in auto mode. This means outdoor visibility is not an issue. But the real treat for gamers and smoothness aficionados is the 144 Hz refresh rate. While most of the interface will run at a buttery smooth 120 Hz, compatible games can push that ceiling to an incredible 144 frames per second. Paired with the flagship processor inside, this makes for an exceptionally fluid and responsive gaming experience. The phone intelligently switches down to 60 Hz when you're looking at a static image to conserve power. which is a smart touch. For media consumption, the experience is top-notch. It supports HDR10, and we can confirm that Netflix now plays back in glorious Full HD, an improvement over the previous model. Watching movies or videos on this completely unobstructed screen is a genuine pleasure. The only slight oddity is that while the phone supports the new Ultra HDR standard for photos in apps like Google Photos, its own camera doesn't seem to be saving images in that format just yet. A strange software quirk, but not a deal-breaker. Powering this unique device is the absolute pinnacle of mobile processing currently available, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite. This is the same flagship chipset you'll find in the top-tier Android phones of 2025, and it means the Z70S Ultra has performance to spare. There is simply nothing you can throw at this phone, in terms of apps or games, that it won't handle with absolute ease. Our review unit came with 12 GB of RAM and 256 GB of UFS 4.0 storage, which is blindingly fast, but you can configure it up to a frankly ludicrous 24 GB of RAM and a full terabyte of storage if you're a true power user. In benchmarks, the phone puts up predictably stellar numbers, competing with the very best in the market. CPU and GPU tests show this phone is a monster. But benchmarks only tell part of the story. The real question is sustained performance. How does it handle heat under maximum load? Here the results are a bit of a mixed bag. In a CPU stress test, performance did throttle down to about 60% of its peak after a while, which is a bit more aggressive than some rivals. The GPU, however, holds its own for a solid 15 minutes of intense gaming before it starts to throttle. The downside is that this sustained load can make the aluminum frame uncomfortably hot to the touch, peaking around 60 degrees Celsius right where your index finger might rest. It's a powerhouse, but a fiery one. On the software front, the Z70S Ultra runs Nubia's Nebula AIOS 1.5, which is a customized layer on top of the latest Android 15. The overall look is clean and contemporary, with Nubia's characteristic quick toggles, big, bubbly buttons for your most used settings. There are plenty of customization options to make the phone your own. Nubia is also leaning into AI. The headline feature is AI Translate, which can provide real-time voice and subtitle translation for phone calls in 22 languages. There's also a feature for translating multilingual meetings. And of course, Google Gemini is on board for all your AI assistant needs. For gamers, the Energy Cube utility, a descendant of the Red Magic gaming software, is a command center for optimizing your experience. It can be a bit overwhelming at first, but it gives you granular control over performance, notifications, and even provides an on-screen overlay to monitor your frame rate in real time. To fuel all this high-end hardware, Nubia has blessed the Z70S Ultra with a massive 6,600 mAh battery. That's a significant 10% increase over its predecessor, and larger than what you'll find in most flagships. It's also a more advanced silicon-carbon type battery, which promises better density and longevity. You'd think this huge capacity would translate to chart-topping endurance, but the results are more good, not great. In active use tests, it landed at around 13 hours, which is respectable but doesn't quite set a new standard. It seems the gains in battery size were offset by slightly worse efficiency in web browse and gaming compared to the last model, though video playback and call time did see an improvement. It will comfortably get you through a full day of heavy use, but it's not a two-day champion. When it's time to top up, the phone supports 80W wired charging. Now, in a move that's becoming all too common, there's no charger in the box. Using an official 80W Nubia adapter, the phone went from 0 to 100% in 49 minutes, hitting 79% at the 30-minute mark. This is reasonably fast, but not the fastest we've seen. Interestingly, using a high-quality third-party power delivery charger yielded almost identical charging times, so you don't necessarily need to hunt down Nubia's specific brick. What is missing, however, is wireless charging. For a device at this price point, it's a notable omission and something to consider if you've grown accustomed to the convenience of charging pads. On the plus side, Nubia includes some excellent battery protection features. Charge separation is a standout. When you're gaming while plugged in, this feature powers the phone directly from the adapter, bypassing the battery entirely. This prevents the battery from heating up and degrading, which is brilliant for long-term health. You can also set a charging limit anywhere between 20% and 90% to further preserve your battery's lifespan. And now, we arrive at the very soul of the Nubia Z70S Ultra. For years, Nubia has championed the 35mm focal length for its main camera, arguing it provides a more natural, cinematic perspective than the wider 24mm or 26mm lenses on most phones. With the Z70S Ultra, they've doubled down on this philosophy by pairing that signature lens with a much larger sensor. We're talking about a 50-megapixel, 1/1.3-inch OmniVision sensor. This is a serious piece of hardware, putting it in the same league as some of the best camera phones out there. It's paired with a bright f/1.7 aperture and optical image stabilization. This is flanked by a 64-megapixel telephoto camera with a native 70mm focal length, and a 50-megapixel ultrawide with an expansive 13mm field of view. But before we dive into the quality, we have to address the elephant in the room, Nubia's camera software. It is, to put it mildly, quirky. For reasons known only to Nubia, the camera app defaults to cropped-in focal lengths. The 70mm telephoto defaults to 85mm. The 13mm ultrawide defaults to 18mm. To get to the camera's native, highest quality focal length, you have to cycle through the zoom presets. It's baffling and frustrating, and it hides the camera's true potential behind an unnecessary layer of confusion. Once you ensure you're shooting at the native 35mm, the results from this new, larger sensor are fantastic. Daylight photos are packed with detail, noise is non-existent, and the dynamic range is excellent, handling bright skies and dark shadows with ease. Colors have a pleasing pop without looking cartoonish. That 35mm perspective really does give photos a unique, professional look, great for street photography and environmental portraits. The larger sensor also produces a beautiful, natural bokeh or background blur without even needing to turn on portrait mode. When you do engage the simulated bokeh, it's conservative and very convincing. In low light, this camera truly shines. It captures bright, balanced exposures with impressive detail in the shadows. Colors remain vibrant and noise is well controlled. It's a very capable, low-light performer. Get past the default 85mm setting, and the native 70mm shots from the telephoto are superb. These 16-megapixel images are sharp, detailed, and offer a great compressed perspective for portraits, or for getting closer to your subject. In good light, it's a fantastic camera. At night, it's still quite good, delivering usable shots with good color, though it can sometimes underexpose to protect highlights. The cropped-in 85mm and 140mm digital zoom levels are usable, but noticeably softer than the native 70mm. The ultrawide camera, at its native 13mm, is a lot of fun, capturing dramatic, expansive scenes. Detail is decent, and the dynamic range seems to have improved over the last generation. At night, it's reasonably good for an ultrawide producing usable images in well-lit scenes. However, the default 18mm cropped view is quite soft, and the 24mm digital zoom is best avoided. And then there's the front camera. The price you pay for that gorgeous, uninterrupted display is a selfie camera that is a compromise. While it's a noticeable improvement over the previous generation, and almost at the point of being good enough, it still can't compete with the traditional punch-hole camera. Selfies are softer and lack the fine detail you'd get from competitors. It's the trade-off you must accept for that flawless screen. Video quality is, unfortunately, another mixed bag. The main 35mm camera does a great job during the day, capturing detailed 4K and even 8K video with good colors and dynamic range. Stabilization is also very effective. However, the ultrawide and telephoto cameras are less reliable. The ultrawide tends to overexpose, and both secondary lenses produce softer footage than the main camera. In low light, only the main camera delivers truly good video. The ultrawide is noisy, and the telephoto is very soft. It's a capable video machine, but it lacks the consistency of the top players. So where does that leave us with the Nubia Z70S Ultra? This is not a phone for everyone. It's not a device you can recommend without a few big buts. And that's precisely why it's so interesting. Let's be clear about the pros. The design is absolutely standout. This leather-like glass back is a triumph of material engineering, and the IP68, IP69 rating adds peace of mind. The display is a dream, big, bright, and completely free of interruptions. The raw performance from the Snapdragon 8 Elite is undeniable, and the abundance of physical controls like the shutter button and slider will delight photography enthusiasts. When you wrestle with its quirks, the main and telephoto cameras can produce some truly stunning still photos. However, the cons are just as significant. The battery life is merely average, not exceptional. The camera UI is genuinely confusing and does a disservice to the excellent hardware underneath. Video quality is unreliable across the different lenses, and the under-display selfie camera is a clear step down from a conventional one. And the lack of wireless charging and eSIM support feels like an oversight in 2025. Priced at around €770 for the base model, it's up against some fierce competition. You could get a Realme GT7 Pro for similar money, which offers better battery life and faster charging. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus offers a more polished overall experience, better software support, and a trusted brand name. The Xiaomi 15 offers a more compact, well-rounded package. So who is the Nubia Z70S Ultra for? It's for the individualist. It's for the photographer who appreciates the unique 35mm perspective and wants a tool that feels like a camera. It's for the person who values a truly immersive, cutout-free display above all else and is willing to accept the selfie compromise. It's a phone with a strong personality, with high highs and some frustrating lows. It doesn't earn an unequivocal recommendation. But if you're tired of the sea of sameness, if its unique design and camera philosophy speak to you, and if you're willing to learn its eccentricities, the Nubia Z70S Ultra offers an experience that is, without a doubt, one of the most unique and compelling on the market today. It's a beautiful, flawed, and fascinating piece of technology.